And welcome back. Thanks very much for staying on with us here on WION World is One. You're watching WION Fineprint with me, Molly Gambhir. A quick look first at the top stories that we are tracking at this hour. The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen describes the move by Russia to halt the gas delivery to certain European Union member states as blackmail. Russia's defense ministry says its forces have destroyed a large quantity of Western-supplied weapons in southeastern Ukraine with long-range missiles. India shares serious concerns over the United Nations General Assembly draft resolution regarding veto power usage, while urging that either all members should have veto power or none should have it.
Members of the Security Council.
The sign of Pakistan's most influential political dynasty is sworn in as the foreign minister, the latest step on a ladder likely to take Bilawal Bhutto Zardari to the top of the country's leadership. Embattled Sri Lankan President Rajapaksa extends an invitation to all political parties in the government to discuss the establishment of an all-party government. The United Nations General Assembly has a new resolution. Let's tell you first what it says. Every time a permanent member vetoes something, they must give a reason for it. How does this work? The United Nations Security Council has 5 permanent members: the United States, the UK, France, Russia and China. The P5 have the power to veto any resolution. So every time they veto a resolution, the Assembly will be convened immediately. They must explain why this veto was cast. But here's the catch and the key takeaway. This UNGA resolution is non-binding, which means that if the P5 do not want to explain their veto, no one can force them to do so. The veto power has been under scrutiny for a long time. The United Nations Security Council has 5 permanent members and 10 non-permanent ones, but these 10 do not have veto rights. So why just these 5 countries? The United Nations was formed just after the Second World War. Permanent membership was granted then to these 5 states. This was on the basis of their importance in the world order back then. Since 1945, over 200 UN Security Council proposals have been vetoed. The first veto, in fact, was used in 1946. This was by the then Soviet Union on Syria and Lebanon. And since then, Russia has used it over 143 times. The United States, 86 times. The UK, 30 times. And China and France have both used it over 18 times. Now, the fact is the world order has changed a lot since then. But the Security Council's veto rights remain dated. The same countries continue to veto resolutions, paralyzing what is calling the UN's most powerful body throughout the war. The UNSC has been a sitting duck, with vetoes cancelling any chance for meaningful action. Now, will the new resolution mean that the P5 will use its veto powers less? Well, that is highly unlikely, given that it is non-binding. These 5 can easily get away without any explanation. And this is a point that India raised today. New Delhi has called this new resolution a piecemeal initiative. It says the resolution ignores the root cause of the problem.
when a group of pro-reform member states, including India, had moved a similar such initiative nearly a decade ago, which also called for an improvement in the working methods of the Council, we were accused of promoting a piecemeal approach to UN Security Council reform. It is therefore ironical that the same set of member states who argue vociferously against piecemeal reform in the IGN are today themselves supporting a piecemeal initiative which ignores the root cause of the problem.
What India essentially wants is a more representative council, one that includes more underrepresented voices. New Delhi says that either all members should have veto power or no one should have it.
We regret the lack of inclusivity in the manner this resolution was put forth. We have serious concerns about such take it or leave it initiatives which do not make a genuine effort to take into account the perspectives and concerns of the wider membership.
And to talk about India's statement and the very fact that this has been called a piecemeal initiative by New Delhi, with us on the broadcast is Ambassador Manjeev Singh Puri, former ambassador of India to the United Nations. Thanks very much, Ambassador, for being here with us. Let me begin by asking you for your initial reaction to this resolution. It's non-binding. The P5 members may or may not justify their veto. So what purpose does this resolution serve them?
Thank you very much. You know, resolutions at the United Nations have a political intent, and so did this resolution. A small country, Liechtenstein, piloted the resolution, and the co-sponsors included Britain, France, and the United Kingdom. And what exactly is the purpose here? In the context of Ukraine, it sort of shows the Russians and the Chinese in bad light. What do you think was our real issue? By the way, the resolution has been adopted with consensus. Everybody has made their point. You are absolutely right. General Assembly resolutions are non-binding. But, you know, there's a political signaling which is taking place, which is a kind of, let me put it like this, and a further attempt to name and shame Russia. Now, why did we say this was a piecemeal? Because what is it dealing with? The crux of the matter at the UN Security Council is that it reflects a world of post-1945 and not the world that exists today. Moreover, this world is iniquitous because 5 countries have managed to get for themselves from those days a veto power which blocks the United Nations from undertaking any meaningful activity in truly serious matters, including the one between Ukraine and Russia. And so, therefore, instead of going for the more important elements, which is its expansion, its recasting, these kind of measures are laid. But you know, look, this is par for the course. The United Nations is a political body and countries seek to make political points. Liechtenstein is a small little country. It, in a sense, reinforces their relevance in the game, but they also bat for others, which is quite obvious. We have to say what is in our interest, and that's exactly what our Deputy Permanent Representative said in the UN General Assembly.
Right, Ambassador, taking a cue from what you just said, the very need for the United Nations to keep up with the times has been dragging its feet when it comes to these much-needed reforms. India has said, give veto power to all members or no one. There's also the issue of the expansion of the Council, which has been a long pending demand. If you can just highlight for our viewers the very significance of these reforms that India has been pushing for.
Well, the most fundamental reform is that the Council should reflect the world as is today, i.e. contemporary reality. So let me leave this thought with your viewers, and this is being put a bit provocatively. If supposing 5 top countries of the world were to be chosen today, would you think that the 2 European members would qualify? I don't think most people would agree with that. This being the situation, the fact of the matter is that the so-called victors or those who are important in 1945 continue to have the greatest effort. And therefore, the main demand is a recasting of the UN Security Council. Because of expediency, no one says the whole thing should be recast, except that it should be expanded in its permanent membership. And the G4, which is India, Japan, Brazil, and Germany, have been leading this particular voice. Now, coming to the veto, Of course, ideally speaking, either the veto should be abolished and the Security Council should work on the principle of majority within the Council, or the veto right should exist with all permanent members. This, of course, is another contentious issue. Even if somebody says that, well, we are willing to consider an expansion of the permanent membership, they are very loath to the entire idea of sharing their extraordinary power, which is the power of veto. Well, this is the way the global games are played, and this will continue to happen. But it is my considered belief that as time goes on and the relevance of these countries, especially India, increases in the world, the permanent members would find it advantageous to have India in as a permanent member rather than outside.
Ambassador Puri, we're leaving it there for the moment. Thanks very much for joining us here on WION World is One and sharing those perspectives.
Thank you.
Now, is the war in Ukraine spreading beyond its borders? In focus right now is the breakaway Moldovan region of Transnistria. Authorities are saying explosions have damaged 2 radio masts that broadcast in Russian and that one of its military units had been attacked, all of which took place in the span of 24 hours. Ukraine has accused Moscow of trying to drag Kiev into the war, while Russia says it was seriously concerned about the attacks.
We clearly understand that this is one of the Russian steps. The special forces are working there. It's not just about fake news, and the reason is clear. In order to destabilize the situation in the region, to threaten Moldova by showing that if Moldova supports Ukraine, then there will be these steps.
Transnistria is a breakaway region on the Moldova-Ukraine border. Now, globally, it is recognized as part of Moldova, but for all practical purposes, it is independent. Their own government, their own army, their own parliament. Why will this excite Vladimir Putin? Because Transnistria is pro-Russia. Russia has 2,000 soldiers stationed there. Add to that 10,000 soldiers loyal to the rebel government. Put together, they can overpower Moldova.
It's a complex and tense situation. We are vigilant. We will take all necessary measures to prevent escalation, to strengthen the security of the state and to protect our citizens. We need to be calm, get informed from reliable sources and avoid sharing false information. We urge the media, opinion leaders, social and political leaders to behave with maximum responsibility during this period.
Now, currently, no group has claimed responsibility for the blast, but it has made the world suspicious of Russia's true intentions. Transnistria's president has imposed anti-terror security measures for 15 days. Meanwhile, the US warned against attempts to escalate tensions in the region. And as the war between Ukraine and Russia continues, the European Union's role and its response has come under the lens time and again. On one hand, it condemns Russia's assault against Ukraine, but on the other hand, it continues to buy Russian oil. So to better understand this dilemma, WION's executive editor Palki Sharma Upadhyay spoke to Lithuania's foreign minister. Listen in now to this excerpt from that exclusive conversation.
Europe has been accused of bankrolling this war for Russia. Are you satisfied with Europe's response so far?
Well, to be honest, I can tell you that probably there are very many people in Russia and in other parts of the world who believe that the Western countries, and especially European countries, would be so united in their response. Before the 24th of February, you would probably hear more about the disagreements and the very, very difficult path towards a consensus when it comes to sanctions, when it comes to a common foreign policy response to anything that is happening. And it was always very, very difficult. Now, after the 24th, we've managed not only to secure the 27 around the European table, but also to expand it. And really, when you think about it, the global response to the Russian aggression was unprecedented. And I think that this is the biggest surprise that caught Mr. Putin in his attack, because he was definitely definitely not expecting that.
But to what end? What has this global response or European response achieved? Because the war still goes on and Ukraine is the one that's suffering, and countries like yours feel the threat. And if this is going to be the standard template for response, then it is only going to be condemnation and more sanctions.
No, not necessarily. I can tell you that, for one, yes, the sanctions are very important. They diminish the possibility of waging a long-term war. That means that the resources that Russia would otherwise, or any aggressor would otherwise use in order to wage war that lasts not 3 days, as Mr. Putin expected, or even 2 months, as is now going on. But if we're talking about the war that would last for 1, 2, 3 years, or even longer, it is impossible to do that without very significant resources. Now those resources are being frozen. What more can be done is that we should ban the imports of oil and gas. Obviously, this is what Lithuania has been asking for, and we are determined to find a consensus on that. And certain announcements from the German government make us believe that we are getting closer to the agreement.
That Europe is going to give up Russian
yes,
gas?
I'm sure that now we are approaching the stage where it becomes a matter of time, not a matter of whether it is at all doable. The second thing is support with arms and lethal equipment. This has also been unprecedented. If you'd expect that countries like United States and United Kingdom would support Ukraine with arms and deliveries, now what we've seen that European Union has made already a third tranche of financial support to buying lethal equipment to Ukraine of 500 million euros, and it totals now in 1.5 billion. And if we listen to the words of High Representative Josep Borrell when he said, we're not stopping there. So if you were to ask a question a year ago, even 2 months ago, that would Europe be in the forefront of supporting Ukraine with arms and equipment, I mean, nobody would have believed you. So this is definitely a new geopolitical reality that we are finding ourselves in. And we are, I would say, we're stepping into big shoes, but it's difficult now to measure the size of the shoes because I think this is the first time that Europe is wearing them.
And that was just an excerpt from that conversation. In just a short while from now, at 8:30 p.m. IST, you can catch the entire interview with the Lithuanian Foreign Minister. It was being touted as the mother of all stock sales in India. The share sale of India's life insurance giant has been reduced by 50% in size, but it's still the biggest stake sale in India's stock listing history. Let's take you through the details that have been announced now. Life Insurance Corporation's IPO will be worth nearly 21,000 crore rupees or $2.7 billion. It will hit the primary market on the 4th of May and will be available for subscription till the 9th of May. A price band of 902 to 949 rupees per equity share has been fixed on the LIC IPO for normal investors. The IPO comes with the benefit for the policyholders or retail investors, as the government has decided to offer a discount on the price band on the issue or price band of the issue to these categories. With the IPO, the government is looking to divest its 3.5% stake in the insurer. However, analysts have issued a word of caution for retail investors as well. After the last year IPO rush, many stocks have failed to meet the expectations post the listing on the Indian stock markets, and India's IPO party seems to have gotten over. The Indian government has already announced it will now sell 3.5% stake in LIC versus 5% as planned earlier. A quick update now from the world of technology. Apple may soon be forced to put USB Type-C ports on their iPhones across Europe. This is because of the new European Union legislation. It essentially calls for all electronic devices in Europe to carry a USB Type-C port. No exception will be given to any manufacturer unless their devices are too small. For Android, this is not a big problem. Most new Android phones use the USB Type-C port. But for Apple, this could be a huge problem. The company has stuck to its infamous Lightning connector for years now, while it uses the USB ports for its iPads and Mac devices. The iPhone still has the Lightning port. In Europe, there has been overwhelming support for the Type-C. There were 43 votes in favor and only 2 against in the European Parliament. What the legislation aims to do is reduce electronic waste and improve product sustainability in the region. The EU legislation now raises a fresh question for Apple. Will it keep battling for its Lightning port, or will it make all iPhones entirely portless? If Apple plans to not agree with this legislation, it looks like a portless iPhone is just days away. On to some questions for you. How much do you exercise in a week? Is that enough to meet your fitness targets? Social media tells you to do more in a lesser amount of time. And what's better than a quick 30-minute workout? But think again. The big question is, how effective is your workout? Science says there is a way to judge it. It's called the talk test. Our next report telling you all about it.
A huff and a puff. Give it your best. Keep going. Last 10 seconds left. And that's it. Your workout is now complete. And now relax. These words mean the world to us, especially when we're exercising. Social media has put us all in a tailspin of weight loss and fitness strategies. From keto diets to the paleo diet, intermittent fasting, and alas, something that has been known to work for most of us, a calorie deficit. But what about the quality of our workouts? Are they helping us achieve our goals? How do we decide if our workouts are not just Instagram friendly but also good for our lifestyle? Enter the talk test. Science has delivered yet again. Don't be shocked. Have you ever had your trainer ask you to recount all your relatives' names after 20 burpees or weighted squats? Rest assured, he or she is not wrong. They're not just torturing you. The talk test is a simple way to measure relative intensity. Think of it like this. Would you be able to sing your favorite song in the midst of a high-intensity workout? Probably not. And that is the essence of the talk test. It is a way to measure the intensity of your workouts. It relies on the understanding of how physical activity affects your heart rate. And this is the rule for all activities and sports. From aerobics, cycling, swimming to hiking. And we're not saying this, the US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, is saying it. The talk test has now emerged as a popular way to understand and measure the intensity of aerobic activity and to gauge how physical activity affects our heart rate. We were told not to talk while eating, but in the age of fitness and on-trend workout routines, the talk test is a must while working out. So keep moving and talking. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of WION Fineprint. We are taking a break at this point. Stay tuned to WION World is One. Thanks very much for watching.